All righty. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show. After what was certainly an unlikely event, at least as far as this era of Knicks basketball goes, because the Knicks, for the first time in 71 games, did not manage to maintain a 15-point lead, or did not manage to win a game in which they had a 15-point lead. And they lose yet again against the Cavs. They lose yet again against one of the top teams in the NBA. And ultimately, while, we could certainly talk about some positives from tonight, and we will talk about some positives from tonight, they lose in a game that was not close. The final score, 124-105. I mean, that is reflective of how the last, I would say, 2.5 quarters of this game went. It's an interesting game to talk about. It's an interesting game to talk about for a number of reasons that I don't know that they lend themselves, when you look at them in totality, to any one coherent narrative. Oftentimes we like to make nice, coherent, neat narratives out of individual games in terms of what they say about a team, in terms of what they say about a season. I don't know that this is a game that we're really going to be able to do that for a few reasons. For one, this one played out like the classic. You've seen it once, you've seen it 100 times, script from an NBA back-to-back, in which a team that was just playing last night comes out with a bunch of energy. They hit some shots out of the gate, and the Knicks certainly hit some shots. They were passing the ball like crazy out of the gate. 9 assists on their first 9 made field goals. Tells you really all you need to know about how the Knicks offense was operating at the start of this game against Cleveland. I think Cleveland, not having played in 2 days, and their defense, maybe kind of sort of easing into this game a wee bit, had a little bit to do with that good start. But look, if you go into an arena of a team that has 60 wins and they're playing all their guys and they had everybody with the exception of Ty Jerome, and you go up by 15 and they're building, you get credit for that. Like, you don't write that off. You don't poo-poo that. And you certainly don't poo-poo the achievements of OG Anunoby in the first half of that game. And we're going to talk more about OG in a little bit. But so you had this game following the classic script of a back-to-back. One team comes out one way, one team comes out another way, and then gradually over the course of the game, those teams kind of trade places as the Knicks, in the second half of this game. I mean, they had 60 points at the half. They scored 45 points in the second half. And I think even that is, other than one little stretch over a few minutes in the third quarter where after they had gone down by, what did they go down by? Excuse me, or one. Yeah, no, it was just, I think they had gone down by maybe as many as 6 or 8 or something along those lines. They came back and they tied it at 83 all. That little stretch where they did manage to turn some defense into offense. Other than that stretch, the offense over the second half of this game was completely non-existent. Some of that just came down to them missing shots. The Cavs, as they said on the broadcast, 15 for 15 from 2-point range in the third quarter. The Knicks, I don't want to know what they shot from the field in the third and fourth quarter. 2-point range, 3-point range, any of it. It was not good. Again, the shots that weren't going down, that went down in the first half, I mean, I lost track of the amount of attempts at or around the rim that the Knicks had, and that they just, there was one play in the with 7 minutes to go in the game when it was like barely still a game, and the Knicks had gotten a steal, and I think it was Josh Hart missed a layup, and then I forget who got the offensive rebound off of the Josh Hart missed layup, but that person had a layup. Might have been Tyler Kolek, I forget, and he missed it. Like, it was that kind of a second half for the Knicks. Am I going to kill him for that? No, I'm not going to kill him for that. There is a player that I do think deserves a little bit of the more of the brunt of the criticism for the second half. It was Shamet, by the way, who missed the putback. Sorry, Tyler. Didn't mean to implicate you there. There is one player who I think deserves a little bit more blame than his teammates for the second half performance. We'll get to him in a bit. So yeah, you get some credit for going up 15, but you also, even with the second night of a back-to-back, and of course, a name that I have not mentioned yet through 6 minutes of this monologue is Jalen Brunson. Even without your best player, and by the way, without your sixth and seventh man, and your eighth man, actually, sorry. You're without your sixth man, your seventh man, your eighth man. So for the second night in a row, missing 4 of their top 8 players, including your best guy, like, that's absolutely relevant. The part that I am struggling with is this. Even on the second night of a back-to-back, even missing Jalen Brunson, even missing Mitchell Robinson, who the defensive numbers with Mitch on the floor since he's come back have been very good. And Deuce, who's a very good defensive player, and Campaign, who is a very pesky defensive player. Even with all those guys missing, there is, if you want to take it, an opportunity to leave this game very discouraged over the very simple fact that once the Cavs offense got rolling, the Knicks looked at times helpless to stop it. So you could ask yourself, how much of that do you put on it being the second night of a back-to-back? It's a fair question. I think it's especially a fair question in light of the fact that in the beginning of the game, the Knicks were holding their ground on closeouts pretty effectively, and I thought that dissipated wildly over the course. I mean, this was like going down, the big drop on a roller coaster. That got a lot worse. Their ability to take care of the defensive glass, I know that's a kind of a separate segment of defense, but it is a part of defense. The Cavs ended this game with 15 offensive rebounds. I will look up how many rebounds they had in the first half of this game. I don't think it was too many. Did I not screenshot? Of course I didn't screenshot that. I'll get it though. In any case, you felt the Knicks' inability to come up big on the glass as this game went on, for sure. But it was the same thing that we've been talking about against these great teams all year, and it's pick and roll. It's pick and roll. It's pick and roll. It's pick and roll. How are you going to stop these elite offenses when they just run pick and roll at you? Now, was Cat, on the lower end of Towns' capability in covering pick and rolls in this game? Yeah. Did your perimeter defenders kind of get smoked on some of these screens initially? Yeah. Was the back line help there as much as it needed to be? No. Even initially in the first half, were you helping too much off corner 3-point shooters? Yeah. So there was a lot to be desired, again, on the defensive end and I think from a philosophical point of view, maybe not philosophical, I don't know if that's the wrong word, from a big picture point of view, if you are looking to draw larger conclusions from this game moving forward to the playoffs, I think for as much as it would be lovely to take away, like, hey, we had a 15-point lead on the Cavs in Cleveland, I have a tough time making that the main takeaway, especially when so much of that big lead was on the back of OG Anunoby having as good an offensive half as I have ever seen him. And he has had some positively brilliant offensive halves over the course of this recent stretch that he's been on. I was convinced at some point that, in the first half, that he was going to go for at least 30, probably 35. He ended up with 23 points. So again, tells you about that drop off. As much as I would love to be more on the positive side because of the lead that they built and the fact that, again, this was an 83-83 game with a couple minutes to go in the third quarter, and they deserve credit for that. But they still don't look like they know how to get stops against an offense this good. And for as much as we can talk about, and I will bring back up in a second, the loss of Brunson in this game, the one thing the loss of Brunson does not do is it does not make you a worse defensive team, especially with Delon Wright out there playing, I'm assuming he played about 33 minutes. So, again, you can write that off to some extent because it's the second night of a back-to-back and you didn't have Mitch. Let's throw that into because you didn't have Mitch. I can't completely write it off just because of how rough it looked at times and how easily the Cavs were scoring at large portions of this game. Now, that being said, you gave up 124 points to the Cavs tonight. I like that. It's just going to sound crazy to say, especially to people who love their 90s basketball. 124 points to the Cavs is like not the end of the world. Obviously, it's not great. It's not exactly where you want to be, but you could win a game when you give up 124 points to the Cavs. Like you're capable of it. And if you look at the Cavs percentages tonight, for as much as they were automatic in the third quarter, like it was not something that was, they could not overcome. But so if you bring Brunson back into the mix, for as much as you will lose a little bit defensively, after how much their offense completely fell off a cliff in the second half of this game, do you kind of look at it like, yeah, well, sure, we're losing something defensively, but compared to what he gives you on offense, and that was the other major takeaway for me. We have seen the Knicks over this nice little stretch have a couple, here and there, really nice offensive performances. There have been some really nice individual offensive performances. There have been a few really nice team offensive performances. Even so, and I don't think the stats are going to be updated quite yet. So let's just go before this game. So this includes last night's win against the Philadelphia 76ers. They had the 19th ranked offense in the league over the last 13 games. My guess is after this game, they are going to be comfortably in. Actually, no, because there's a big gap between them and the Magic over those 12 games. So they might actually still be in 19th. Either way, the fact that they are a borderline bottom 10 defense and over this stretch of games without Brunson, again, not that anybody needs reminding, but in case you did, this team just desperately needs JB back, and they need JB back healthy, because when the Cavs defense locked in and they were switching everything and they were really making life difficult on everybody on the Knicks, and OG cooled off a little bit, the Knicks had no one to generate advantages against this Cavs team. The closest thing they had to someone to generate advantages in the second half was Karl-Anthony Towns, and like he did not have the best game by any stretch of the imagination. He finished 9 of 16 for 25 points. So actually, considering that, like 25 points on 16 shots, it's amazing how many times I've said that. Like, Towns, not a great game for Towns when you look up 25 and on 16 shots, and he got 13 rebounds, 7 turnovers though. And that's the thing. Even though he had 25 points on 16 shots, those 7 turnovers are arguably worse than 7 missed field goal attempts. So really, it's like 9 for 23 for 25 points. And you could argue it's even worse because how many of those turned into fast break buckets? So you have Towns out there as your offensive generator, and it's not going great against a team that has the personnel to be able to cover him and make his life difficult. And, Jared Allen, I know anytime a center gets matched up on Towns, it's an opportunity. Well, and he got Allen a few times for sure, but Allen's no walkover, and Evan Mobley is certainly no walkover. To say nothing of some of the other wings that they could throw on him. So that is where you needed, if you were the Knicks in the third quarter, a shot creator to step up and bend the defense ever so slightly. And the other guy besides Towns, and we've been praising him an awful lot over these last 2-3 weeks, to the point where we're talking about, hey, man, come playoff time, we got to figure out how to give this guy a big share of the offense. Got to make sure he gets his shots. Got to make sure we run plays for him. Got to this, that, and the other thing. Mikal Bridges in this game took 6 shots. 6. In 36 minutes. You want to give him a pass for taking 4 shots in the first half because OG had it going, and like that was where the offense was kind of directed toward? Fine. Totally fine. I saw he had 4 shots at the half. I was like, all right, OG had it going. Would have liked to see him maybe get a couple more up, but you know, you never love it in a half where Josh Hart has more 3-pointers attempted than Mikal Bridges has shots attempted. And for the game, Josh Hart, by the way, finished with more 3-pointers attempted, 9, than Bridges had shots, 6. Hart, 3 for 9 on those. Not great, but like, hey, took 9 threes. Why did he take 9 threes? Because that's what the defense gave him. Okay. So the yin and the yang of that is that the defense is giving him that because they're taking away Mikal Bridges. I get that. And that's a tough situation. If teams are going to guard Josh Hart this way, the easiest thing to do is for Josh Hart to take threes. And he abided tonight. And it went, one more shot. He's 4 for 9. All of a sudden, it's a good percentage. Although with how teams are guarding him, like that's not really good enough. It's the defense that's being played more than the actual results on the shots, unless he just goes nuclear like he did against the Sixers in the first 3 games of the last playoffs. But I digress. But you are giving the defense such a get out of jail free card by playing you that way and not pushing back at all. And like, I know people are going to be like, hey, man, that's on the coach. Coach got to figure out how to get McCallum Browse. I cannot tell you how many possessions, and I was saying it in real time when we were doing this game on playback in the third quarter. McCall, it looked like he was playing hot potato with the basketball. That's not good enough. That's not going to cut it. He had opportunities to try to make something happen, to try to use his gravity, to try to use his ball handling, try to use anything he's got. God forbid, try to get to the rim, maybe even draw a foul. He did went to the free throw line twice tonight, so okay, fine. Maybe pull up from deep. None of that. None of that. So like, I'm leaving tonight feeling, even on the second night of a back-to-back, even with JB out and the other guys out, I'm feeling a little bit more bad than good, because for as much as they did some nice things to go up 15, for as much as they did what they kind of did what Josh Hart said they needed to do at his locker last night. And it's like, we got to compete. Yeah, I mean, you competed. You competed for, almost 3 quarters. You competed. Okay. You get credit for that. For sure. You get credit for that. But I'm only going to take so much solace because of what I talked about earlier with the defense. And again, the fact that it didn't look like they had any answers. And if you want to blame the coach for that, that's fine. That's fine, because ultimately, if you're out there in these deep drops and it's like, at some point it is the definition of insanity. So that's fine. Although again, like there's ways to play that defense better than they played it, but that's whatever your opinion on that is. And then Bridges, shout out. I'll very quickly shout out Benji Ritholtz, who has continued to say, as everybody is getting very excited over these Bridges scoring games and this and that, Bridges is a different player, a fundamentally different player against teams that play drop coverage. If you play drop coverage against Mikal Bridges, he can cook you, because as they were saying last night against the Sixers, there isn't anybody in the league who might be as comfortable from the mid-range right now as Mikal Bridges. He is automatic for the most part when he gets to his spots there. But defenses don't have to give him those shots. They could just switch. And if they're going to switch it and they're not going to play drop, well then, what are you going to do? Are you going to turn into a ghost and you're going to take 6 shots in 30 whatever minutes he played? 36 minutes? Is that what you're going to do? Because that's what you did tonight. And it's like, the conversation has been like, oh, Mikal Bridges is not showing up against these great teams in these big games. Yeah, well, guess what? What do the Thunder, the Cavs, and the Celtics all have in common? They don't play drop defense. They switch. So, like, again, if you're Bridges, like, I'm sorry. I'm not blaming that on play calling. Like, you got to figure out a way to get yourself involved. You got to have some agency and do more. And these are the games where you look at what they gave up for him. And, like, there was a moment, and I kind of said it jokingly, but there's a lot of truth in jest, where Donovan Mitchell pulled up from 3. It was on the left wing with Mikal guarding him, guarding him. I mean, he was there. His personage was there. I don't know that I would call it the tightest coverage I've ever seen, but Mikal was guarding him, and like Bridges drains it on his head, and I said at the moment, I'm like, Bridges has to be thinking to himself, man, you wouldn't give up a third unprotected first round pick for me, but you gave up 5 when you throw in the unprotected swap. Gave up 5 unprotected picks for him? Really? No, we don't have to go down that road. It's revisionist history. And like, again, if it's a whole, we don't have to do that. But I wonder if he wasn't thinking that. I really wonder. And it's fair, because these are the games where if you're gonna make that level of investment in a player, and that's why, like, look, I loved the Zach Lowe, Bill Simmons pod. I'm not all the way through it, but I heard the section about, Tibbs. Bill has Tibbs on the hot seat. That's a Bill hot take, obviously, and Zach reacted appropriately. But Bill's reasoning for it was like, you don't trade 5-round picks for Mikal Bridges and then have him go stand in the quarter and not run any plays for him. Okay, that's fair. He's been underutilized at times this year, 100%. I'm the first person to admit that. But there's a lot on there's blame to go around on both sides here. And tonight, what we saw or what we didn't see from Bridges, for me, was like, I would have liked to, if he had taken it upon himself and he finished tonight with, going 6 for 14 or something, and he had gotten to the line 4 or 5 or 6 times, and like they lose the game by 11 or 12 points, but it was actually really a game into the last 2-3 minutes. I got to tell you, even if with the defense, I would have felt a lot better about tonight. The fact that he had the game that he had, it really does put it over the edge for me as a game that I'm going to feel more negative about than positive about. So sorry to rag on Bridges, but that's, I mean, watching it in real time, that's what I was thinking. And so I had to do what I do here. All right. So I don't know how many super chats we're going to have tonight, because I frankly just think people are ready for the playoffs to start. And it's like, wake me on April 19th or April 20th, which I don't blame folks, but obviously here to talk about and anything you guys do want to talk about. But first, we're going to talk about, there we go. I remembered the hat tonight. Let's see, make sure I got it on straight here. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Our friends from Bird Dogs. You know the deal with Bird Dogs by now. They are the most comfortable, the best fitting, and the most versatile pair of shorts, especially, but really they have a whole host of men's clothing that you can go out there and get. Why would you want to go out and get your typical boxy khaki sports or other brands that are like super casual or super sporty? Bird Dogs has perfected the formula. They have figured out a way to make you one pair of shorts that you could wear on a date night, and you could wear to work if you have a little bit more of a casual work environment, and God knows I have. Ask anybody at my school. You could wear on the golf course. You could wear to the gym. You could wear going out. You can literally dress these shorts up or down for any occasion that you need. I love my bird dog shorts. Unfortunately, today, so we got a really cold weather day here in New York. I was planning on popping on a pair of bird dog shorts. I told you I don't wear any other shorts now. But unfortunately, it was cold today, and I only have one pair of the joggers, and I wore them yesterday, so I had to throw them in the wash. So today's the first day, I think, in 4 days that I have not worn a pair of bird dogs. And I'm hoping for a nice warm weather day tomorrow so I can put them back on. And it doesn't even matter what I'm doing tomorrow. I can throw them on anyway because, again, the most versatile shorts you are going to find. For a limited time, our listeners get a free hat, the one that I am wearing on my head, with any order when you use code KFS at birddogs.com. Again, you can get the hat that is on my head right now completely free when you use code KFS at birddogs.com. Again, KFS at birddogs.com. That's the code. Support Knicks Film School and let them know that we sent you. Okay, giddy up. Now I got to take my hat off. All right. Let's see where people are at. I have a feeling I know what the tenor of tonight is going to be, but you never know. I've been surprised before. Dennis D. Sabato. Here we are. This is like, listen, man. Spider not worth 4 firsts. Bridges is worth 6. Question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. Yeah, man. And it wasn't 4. It was 3. Because don't forget, they weren't willing to, they were willing to go, oh my God, it's been so long. They were willing to go RJ and quickly and 2 unprotected firsts. And I think it was the the Jazz were insisting on a 3rd unprotected first. Or maybe it was they wanted the 3rd unprotected first, but then the Knicks said no. And then they were like, all right, but give us Grimes. I forget what the hell it was. But Donovan Mitchell, they could have gotten for less than they gave up for Bridges. That's not, I don't think that's in dispute. I don't think that's in dispute. Now the Cavs ended up giving them, I would certainly a better package when you factor in they got an all-star caliber player in Lauri Markkanen, and not to mention, pretty good player in Colin Sexton, plus the 4 firsts. But Donovan Mitchell's gonna. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna make first team All NBA, but he's certainly gonna be on second team All NBA, and he might be the 5th place MVP guy. And his team has 61 wins, and they could win the championship this year. And he's the best player on I think he's the best player on the team. That's maybe a bit of not a hot take, but that's maybe in some dispute. Bridges is not any of those things, but hey, the Knicks didn't trade for Bridges thinking he was any of those things. They didn't. What they did trade for was a guy who they thought was going to be able to be all of the things that they needed him to be. Exceptional 3rd option, consistent shot maker on catch and shoots, obviously point of attack defender, or just an all defense level defender, all those things. He has been those things at times. But I think I went through it. Yeah, did I go through it yesterday? His season, was it yesterday or was it a couple games ago? It was recently where I basically went through it and or maybe it was in my newsletter. I do a lot of shit. Where it was essentially exactly half of Mikal Bridges' games this season have been really good, and the other half have been not as good. That's not what they traded for. They traded for a guy who's going to give you a certain level of production on both ends, like 85% of the time or 90% of the time. I said it the first week of the season. I said Mikal Bridges' superpower is his consistency. It's that he's really good, really, 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 really good at a lot of different things, and he is that way all the time or almost all the time. And then when you look at what they needed from him tonight, again, I know it was the second night of a back-to-back. I get that. But when you look at what they needed from him tonight, didn't get it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Thanks, Dennis. Jesse Daniel, what's going on, Jesse? Refs took them out of this game at the end of the second. Yeah, I didn't like some of the calls. I thought the third foul on Cat in particular was brutal. That said, when Cat got his third foul, it was and we should say OG was in foul trouble too. That's fair. When Cat got his third foul, there was I wrote it down, it was 3:03 left. And they were up by 11. And then they went into the half up 7. The fact that no Towns and I think actually there was no OG either, because that was his third foul, was on the 8 seconds later or 9 seconds later, whatever it was. So the fact that neither of those guys were in the game for those last 3 minutes, and you only lost 4 points off the lead, for me, okay, you'll sign for that every time. Were the refs to blame for the third quarter? Now, if you want to say that because OG picked up his third foul and because Cat picked up his third foul, they were not able to be more aggressive in the third quarter, and that lack of aggression is part of why the Cavs had their way with the Knicks, that's a cogent argument. I'm not sure I am willing to give the Knicks that level of a pass. If you combine it with the second night of a back-to-back, you're getting closer. I'm still not. I can't get all the way there. I can't get all the way there. But it's a fair point, Jesse. It's a fair point. Thank you, Jesse. Next up, Dom Cappuccini. Dom, I feel bad because I don't even know what you're going to say yet. But I'm going to say you've been absent for all these wins. The vibes have been really good lately. I've been making I've been standing on my soapbox, rallying people, being like, "Hey, man, get excited about this team." And you're here tonight though, which I know the vibes are not great. Anyway, I appreciate the fight at the end of the back-to-back against an extremely tough team. A closer game would have been wonderful, but it still feels like a baby step of progress from the last time they played, in quotes, in that arena. Truly. You know what, Dom? That's a very fair point. That's a very fair point. The last time they played in that arena, and I wrote this in my newsletter the next day, I have been writing newsletters for the Knicks Film School Substack. Shout out to all the subs out there and anybody who wants to subscribe to the Knicks Film School newsletter. You could do so for price of an expensive latte. That's your monthly charge. And you get 5 newsletters a week plus some on weekends. I sent out a weekend newsletter this past week. Anyway, I wrote after that Cavs game that I had been doing this newsletter for, I think, 5 years, whatever it's been. It was the first time that I started writing a newsletter at halftime of a game. I'd never done that before. But I was so thoroughly had seen enough at halftime of that game, and I don't even remember what the hell they were down at halftime, but the game was more over than over could be over. And that's why, of all the takes after that night, the one take that I disagreed with was people who were like, it was crazy of Tibbs to start the third quarter with Precious at the 4 after what at that point, it's like, I could come up with 100 different analogies. None of them would be very good. I just didn't care at that point because the game was over. And they didn't show up. They did not show up at all. They did not show up on offense. They did not show up on defense. They did not show up in any capacity at all. Not one bit. Tonight, they showed up. They showed up. And they showed up in a real way. And they deserve credit for that. They do. They absolutely deserve credit for that. And I want to give them credit for that. Am I asking too much for them to have limited the Cavs to less than 71 points in the second half? Is that asking too much? Is it asking too much for the team that was out there to have limited the Cavs to 60 points in the second half? Is that asking too much? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I guess maybe I've been drinking a little bit too much of my own Kool-Aid that I've been spouting here. Talking about that I think this team is really rounding into form for the playoffs. And I really I believed that. And by the way, I still do believe that. Like, the one thing I will say about tonight does not discourage me a ton, if at all. The Bridges thing aside, tonight does not really discourage me for the playoffs moving forward because, like, I still don't think we've seen the defense that we're going to see when the games get, like, for real. I just cannot imagine that they're going to go out there and they're going to play or, use the defensive coverages that they're using in these regular season games in massive playoff games. I think Tibbs is going to save that stuff. That's my guess. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll say it. And also, like, there's no back-to-backs in the playoffs. Like, they're going to defend a lot better. They're going to defend harder. They're going to be locked in. They'll have Mitch, all that stuff. And just, like, even if your defense isn't great, having Brunson back to level the playing, to keep it close, like, that's worth a lot. So, like, I'm not discouraged by tonight in the big picture, other than maybe a little bit with Bridges, and I guess a little bit with the defense because it was so bad. But to your point, if you want to call it baby steps, I'll give you that. I'll call that baby steps. That's fine. That's fine. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate your generosity as always, man. Busy. What's going on, Busy? How are you? You were having a spirited playback watch along with Sean with a W. It's okay that Tibbs plays starters when games get out of reach because they have 2 days off, but it's McCall's fault. Man, I wish you gave players as much grace. I don't understand how one thing equates to the other. Tibbs played his guys tonight. Bridges played 36, and Anunoby played 34. Towns played 34. Hart played 37. DeLon Wright played 33. Last night, those players played. Cat, 0. Didn't play. Bridges 36, and Anunoby 33, Hart 32, DeLon Wright 33. So what? You want to tell me that Tibbs should have taken the guys out 2 minutes earlier? And all those numbers should be two minutes less? All right, fine. You know me by now, Busy. I don't have the capacity to lose my mind about that. I have no idea how that equates to Mikal Bridges being in a game where it is very, very clear that his team needs someone to step up and try to generate some offense, and just completely, like, just doesn't respond. I think I've given Mikal a lot of grace this year. And when he's been good, I've said he's been good. And not only that, I've been very clear that, like, you have to consider the good as much as you consider the bad, which is why, for as much as on nights like this, the trade does not look great, overall, I can't sit here and say, like we were talking about the other night, like the worst trades in Knicks history. Or under Leon, at least. Like, right now, I'm still not willing to sit here and call this trade a disaster. Is the trade a good trade? No, it's not going to wind up being a good trade. But is it a disaster? I can't sit here and say that yet. Even with performances like this, not only tonight, but against every of these teams that he's played at this level. With the exception of the first OKC game when he was pretty good. I'll give him that. He just needs to be better in some of these games. And I'm sorry. I understand the equivalency you're drawing. To me, it's a false equivalency. I don't think one thing has anything to do with the other. I think I'm harsh when anyone deserves to have me be harsh against them, and I'm kind or fair when the other is warranted. Thanks, Busy. JD, what's going on, JD? How are you? Legit don't know why the NBA thought it was a good idea to flex this to national TV other than to embarrass us. I mean, I can't say that I even gave it a second thought because we did the watch along tonight, and it was the MSG feed. Whatever. It is what it is. The NBA does what they're gonna do. It's fine. I mean, there's some other good games on, but yeah, I don't know. You know what they should have flexed on tonight? Kings Wizards, a game that the Wizards won. Not ideal. Thanks, JD. Mark, is that our Mark? Mark, what are you doing? You crazy man. That is our Mark. What are you doing? You silly man. Mark, this question was thought of prior to the game. Okay, here we go. Been meaning to ask this question for a while. If the assumption is we upgraded from our team last year, which was better than the team 2 years ago, which was better than the team 2 years ago who crushed the Cavs in the playoffs, why have they pulled ahead as far as they have? How and why have the Cavs pulled ahead as far as they have? Shout out to Kev Words. It's a good question. I would say a few things. The most direct answer to your question is why have they pulled ahead as far as they have? Because Evan Mobley has gone from a guy who in his series against the Knicks looked did he look like a top 100 player in the NBA in that series? Maybe. I would have to go back and honestly rewatch it. Probably not. I kind of want to actually pull up his box score stats. But the fact that we have to have a conversation about whether Evan Mobley looked like a top 100 player in the league during his series against the Knicks is going to make my point, I think, pretty clear. Here, first round against the Knicks, he averaged 9.8 points a game. He scored 49 points over the 5 games, obviously. He took 1 3 and missed it. He shot 47% from the field, all on twos. He got to the line 8 times in 5 games and made 5 of those free throws. He had 10 assists in 5 games. He had 6 blocks and 3 steals in 5 games. I guess that number is actually okay. And 12 turnovers. So I would probably say, based on those stats, that he did not play like a top 100 player in the league. This year, Evan Mobley is averaging 18.6 points a game on over a 60 effective field goal percentage. He is attempting over 3 threes a game, hitting those threes at 37%. He is getting to the line 4 times a game. Still like to see that be a little bit more. Hitting those. I think I said 3.1 assists. And Zach Lowe, who I know you have as much respect for as I do, went on Bill's podcast yesterday and said that he thinks he might have Evan Mobley for his 5th first-team All-NBA spot. So the most direct answer to the question about how and why they pulled ahead, I think, is Evan Mobley. I would also say that Donovan Mitchell had, and the Knicks had a little something to do with this, had an absolute series from hell. I think Darius Garland had, maybe not a series from hell, a pretty poor series by his standards, and Jared Allen looked like he had, that was his first time in an arena as opposed to an empty gym. This year, and you saw it tonight, Donovan Mitchell is, I know what Zach said about Evan Mobley getting his 5th first-team All-NBA spot. Donovan Mitchell's probably going to get it. If not that, then he'll get 5th place MVP. He has been the textbook example of less is more. He still has all the confidence. He still makes all the big shots when he needs to. And yet, because he's so willing to defer and because it is so not on his shoulders anymore, and because him and Garland are playing off of each other so much better than they were 2 years ago, which, by the way, was their first year playing together. I think that all of that, Allen is just much better than he was in that series. The team itself, the Cavs team, is better. They did not have an apt third guy who could play both ways. Now they have 3 or 4 of those guys. They have a Max Strus. They have a DeAndre Hunter. They didn't have, I don't think did he play tonight? Did Dean Wade play tonight? How could I forget if the god Dean Wade didn't play tonight? That's a terrible job by me. But they don't, there's nobody that they put on the floor that is a weak spot. No, Dean Wade didn't play tonight. They have Sam Merrill out there, who is, again, a defensive weak spot, but he's lights out, from deep. So their team is a lot better. Obviously, they've changed the coach. Now, how much credit do you give Atkinson for how much better they've gotten? Their offense is night and day from last year. And they kind of gave up on their last coach. So that's part of it. And I don't know how much belief they had in their head coach like going into that Knicks series. So that's another part of it. So there's a whole lot of things about the Cavs that are different. On the Knicks end, which I think is probably the more relevant portion of the question, I think the Knicks team 2 years ago, I do agree. So the Knicks from 2 years ago to the Knicks last year basically amplified what they already were. And they did so with like, okay, Isaiah Hartenstein got better. They went from RJ Barrett to OG Anunoby. I would argue that Josh Hart got better. Jalen Brunson got better. They just were a better version of the team, but the same type of team. Now the Knicks have remade themselves as a different type of team. And the team that they have remade themselves on, and is a word that I kind of fought against early in the year, but I don't know how much I could really fight against it now. They are more of a finesse team. Are they totally finesse? No, I still think there was a hard-nosedness about them. But if you really want this, I mean, other than Mobley, the other just super easy answer is they went from Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson on defense to Karl-Anthony Towns. I mean, that's the answer. That's the answer. Because if you're looking at like the gap in these two teams when they have played each other, I think that's the biggest thing. And the Knicks are supposed to offset that gap with offense, and they've played abhorrent offensive games with the exception of the first half tonight against the Cavs all 3 times they've played. And like, yeah, some of that's on Towns not being able to exploit, the Cavs, and the Cavs, I think, are able to do a very good job on Towns, and it's on the other guys too. So they have to figure that part out. They made this bet that they're like exchanging defense for offense. Again, it wasn't really their bet because Hartenstein left, but like they had no choice but to make this bet. And I guess in some ways, they made this bet that the trade-off was going to be worth it. And again, this is what we talked about all year. It's probably worth it against 26 other teams. Is it worth it against those top 3 teams? That's the part that still has to be answered. And I'll go back to Cleveland again. If there is an unanswered question still, and maybe still unanswered even after they get eliminated from the playoffs, is it fair to even take whatever answer to that question you get and say, this is the answer after only 1 year? Or do you go, well, look at Cleveland. Now, say Cleveland changed the coach. Maybe the Knicks need to change the coach too. That's part of it. Might be part of it. Although the Knicks' current coach is the same guy who ran circles around Cleveland's last coach. So I don't know what you do with that. In terms of just like against the rest of the league in general, because we're sitting here and the Cavs have 61 wins and the Knicks have 48. If you're talking about that 13-win gap, I think it's because the Cavs they just reached well-oiled machine status on offense, and they have more two-way players. They have more two-way players. Darius Garland's been a much better defender this year. They have guys off the bench who are really good two-way players. And don't sacrifice a lot on offense. And like Mobley really is, but again, it's Mobley. Mobley is the key because with the progress he's made in his offensive game this year, he really just he's a value add. He's a major value add. Forget not taking anything off the table. He's a value add, a big time value add, and he might be the best defensive player in the league. So, they're just a more complete team, and it's because of internal improvement. It's because of how individual internal improvement, how they play together. The coaching is better. So they've just gotten better and better and better. And the Knicks got to this level of what they were, and then they changed what they were. And in doing so, they took a step backwards against the best teams, certainly. And I would say from a consistency standpoint also, because we've seen a lot of ups and downs. And now the question is that permanent? Do we give it more time or not? Or did the Knicks blow it? Did they blow it in trading what they traded for Bridges and investing so much in him? Did they blow it in, trying to build their team around Karl-Anthony Towns when, how much do you have to play him at center and can you survive with him at center and all those questions? Like, these are all valid questions. So I would say, Mark, final answer, I think there is a lot of improvement that Cleveland deserves a lot of credit for. And there are reasons why we should not look at the 13-win gap as the be-all, end-all. But there are also very real reasons to look at this and be like, hey, did somebody screw up here? Did somebody screw up here along the way? And like, again, how many times this year have we brought it back to Isaiah Hartenstein taking the money? Because when that happened, and that's the part I'll keep coming back to, which is like there was no other Isaiah Hartenstein out there, not to sign, not to trade for, not anything, but that ship sailed. So what are you gonna do? Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. That was good. All right, Parrish Duggar. Oh boy, here we go. Yes, it was the coach's fault tonight. I forgot. Question without any criticism of Tibbs, to be clear. Oh, okay, maybe not. Would we prefer Mitch playing the 76er game or this Cleveland game? Again, no criticism here. I was fine with it at the time. I'm fine with it now. I thought the Sixers were the worst team. Sit Towns against them, play Mitch against them, and sit Mitch. I did not want to sit Mitch against the Sixers. In no way, shape, or form did I want Mitch to sit against the Sixers. Did I? Because who's left? Precious Chua. That's your big. Did you want Precious Chua out there playing 38 minutes against Philadelphia? I didn't. Certainly. Based on how he had been playing recently. And then what are you going to do for the other minutes? Like, you're going to ask OG Anunoby to go be a 5 in a game in a freaking April game? No, you don't want to do that. So to me, that said very clearly that like the Knicks were like, yeah, we're gonna play the odds. We're gonna do what we think we need to do to get this Sixers win. And then we're going to give ourselves a chance to see what our starting 5 at least can do against Cleveland. And I think, like, did they think that like, oh, saving Towns, but like not saving Mitch? Like, I just don't think that they wanted to risk losing the Sixers game. That's what it comes down to for me. If I don't know what else to say about it other than that. If you want to tell me there was no way, shape, or form they were going to lose that Sixers game, okay, that's fine. Mitch was really good, and that was a 5-point game in the late third quarter. So, thanks, Parrish. Anthony Perino, what's going on, Anthony? 6 field goal attempts for McCall, by far the most troubling thing tonight. Yeah, there you go. His poor play is becoming a disturbing common denominator in these big games. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about it a lot already, so I don't know what else there is to say other than I agree with you. Okay, let's do a quick word from our friends at T-Squared Social. The next game the Knicks play, there's going to be a watch party at T-Squared Social, kicking off at 1:30 p.m. Game starts at 3 p.m. Unfortunately, the Pacers won tonight, and the Pacers play a game coming up on Friday night. Is it Friday night? Yeah, I think it's Friday night. Against the Wizards, although the Wizards did win tonight. Is it a Wizard? No, it's not the Wizards. It's some other team. It's some not good team. Whatever. The Pacers probably aren't going to lose. So, long story short, Knicks magic number going into Saturday is probably still going to be 3. But hey, man, you got to win some more games to get the 3rd seed. It's a big game. Maybe Brunson plays, maybe he doesn't. And it's also family day. So if you have a family and you want to have them come join you for the watch party, come bring them down. Free admission as always. I'll be there with my wife and kids. It's going to be a good time. Okay. Scoreboard. What do we got here? What do we got? Okay. The Rockets put up 143 points over the Jazz. That's who the freaking Pacers play next? They play the Jazz. Don't think they're going to lose that game. Heat beat the Celtics 124-103. Aforementioned Wizards over the Kings 116-111. I mean, Jesus Christ, Sacramento. Pacers over the Hornets. Closer game than it probably should have been. 119-105. Thunder and Pistons are playing right now. Spurs and Nuggets are playing right now. Speaking of second night of back-to-back, Nuggets down by 9 to the Spurs in Denver. So, just worth noting. And then Mavericks right now up 108-96 on the Hawks. Okay, that's your out-of-town scoreboard presented by T-Squared Social. All right, finishing up. Oscar Lung, Mikal has been shy from 3 compared to the start of the season. Let's go to the videotape. So tonight, Mikal Bridges took one 3-pointer, and he missed it. Last bunch of games. What do we got here? Last bunch of games. Just going in reverse order. 2 for 6, 2 for 6, 2 for 6, 1 for 5, 2 for 4, 4 for 8, 0 for 4, 1 for 4, 4 for 6, 1 for 3, 2 for 4. Okay, that's enough. But basically, since JB has been out, Bridges has attempted 61 threes in 14 games. 61 threes in 14 games. That's 4.35, 4.4. Let's round up. 4.3s per game. I don't know when you want to start the cutoff at, because I'm looking back and like some of these weren't much better. You want to go from like before the All-Star break? No, I don't even know that. Oh, here's where it looks like it went down. So I'm looking at February 3rd. He went 2 for 7 against Houston. So from the beginning of the season to February 3rd, he was attempting 6.7 3-point attempts per game. That's, again, through February 3rd. Since February 3rd, not including tonight, 4.3. So from 6.7 to 4.3. Yeah, I'd say that's a bit of a dip. It's not ideal. Not ideal. You need the guy to take threes and make threes. Thanks, Oscar. Row 1 Senior. What's going on, Rowan? Hey, John, since we're lamenting over the Mikal Bridges picks so much, how much do you think JB's influence made that trade happen? By the way, Bridges is your new RJ. Rowan, I haven't made that comp on the post game, and I kind of want to stop talking. I'd be lying if I didn't say I've had that thought once or twice. And I'll just leave it at that. JB's influence made the trade happen. It's such an interesting one because, again, I always lean on people who know more than me. And, Brian Windhorst obviously is as connected as anybody in the league. And he, like 2 or 3 times on his podcast, referred to when he would talk about the Brunson extension, he mentioned it in the same breath as the Mikal trade. And like, when he's like, when it would be talked about how much the Knicks gave up for Bridges, he would kind of be like, yeah, but it wasn't just those picks for Bridges. It was also they got the Brunson extension done. Like, very clearly implying like it was like, kind of a package deal, which I would seem to indicate that Jalen Brunson wanted Mikal Bridges on the basketball team. I mean, did he know they were going to be trading Dante DiVincenzo at the end of the summer? Should that matter? Ultimately, I don't know. I guess if the version of Mikal Bridges, even if you think that there's legitimate criticisms to how they've used him defensively and offensively for that matter, even with those realities, the version of Mikal Bridges that they got is not no one thought they were going to get this. There's no world where anybody is like, this is going to be the version of Mikal that they get. Like, he is underwhelmed. There's no question he is underwhelmed. So, but I think it's not that like the criticism should be on him because like they traded for a guy that like is kind of not what they thought. It's more like, again, they do things a very particular way here in New York. And Jalen Brunson is the captain of the team, and he knows exactly how they do it, and he knows it's not for everybody. So was it incumbent upon him and maybe Hart and maybe Dante, I don't know, to look at Bridges, knowing Bridges as well as they do, and think more about like, oh, he's going to fit in seamlessly here versus maybe not. I don't know. Look, I think they need to use him better. Tonight aside, they need to use him better, but he just needs to be better. So, yeah. Thanks, Rowan. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? This wouldn't have happened on a Friday night. The power of the prophet is too strong. Hashtag fire tips. Thanks, Juanon. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you chiming in. Appreciate your contribution. Appreciate you always being active in the chat, Substack chat. I just appreciate you. Yeah, long live Robert Randolph and his family band. Oscar with another one. If we got Mitchell, will the OG trade still happen? My God. If they got Mitchell, would the OG trade still happen? Well, they would have given up RJ for sure. So, where's the salary coming from? I'm trying to think back to who was on the roster and what salary they could have sent out. I mean, I'm sure they could have cobbled something together, but like, I don't think they were trading Hart. Mitch's salary. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they wanted him for a long time, and I don't think that would have changed. I just don't know. Would they have still been able to get him? I mean, the Raptors really targeted quickly. That's who they really targeted. I mean, now you're gonna make me go back and look. Knicks salary cap. But we got to go back to that season. I mean, shit. Would they've traded Randall in quickly for OG and stuff? It's interesting thought. I mean, they weren't trading Hartenstein. I know that. They didn't really have any other salary. So, I mean, Mitch plus something could have gotten them there, but like Mitch was injured. So like I think the Raptors kind of like the RJ part of that. So I don't think Mitch plus again, I don't even know who the hell they would have had to, Mitch and does Mitch and Grimes and quickly? I don't know if the salaries get you there, but like I don't know. I have fun. I have an odd time seeing Mitch as being like the financial centerpiece of that trade, even if the trade was about quickly. So I would, but then again, Randall. I mean, I think they would have done it. I think they would, they would have gotten OG if they had to give up Randall because of the, they saw the Randall thing coming down the pike. Although then again, who did they trade Randall for? They traded Randall for another, obviously a better player. Would they have exchanged Randall for a guy like OG who is not going to be able to replace? Although look at how he's playing now. The offense that Randall was giving them at the time. It's an interesting question. My gut says they probably don't get OG. Even as much as they would have liked to. But that's my gut. Thanks, Oscar. Roshan Parikh, what's going on, Roshan? Not defending Bridges' game. Terrible. Needs to be more aggressive on both ends. Blaming a player for their trade package is a dangerous game, though. I shouldn't have implied. If I did that, that's a bad job by me. I guess it's just so tough to unravel that. It is not Bridges' fault that he got traded for what he got traded for. I think for me, it is more the fact that, like, yeah, when the trade happened, in the moment, everybody was like, wow, that's a lot. That's a big package for Mikal Bridges. But at the same time, even pretty much everybody who said that also acknowledged in the same breath, like, yeah, but you see why they're doing it. Like, look at Mikal Bridges. Look how he's played his whole career. Look at the kind of team they're building. Look what they're trying to do here. Like, you get it. It's an overpay, but you get it. The implicit in that is that there was an expectation around the league that they were going to get a certain level of play from Bridges, and that just has not been there. So, but you're right. It's a good point. You're right. I'm not going to fight against you on that one. Thanks, Rashawn. Drew P, what's going on, Drew? Felt like they needed a first option and a defensive anchor. I don't know what that's in reference to. But you mean like a first option that's better than Jalen Brunson? Yeah, I'm sorry, Drew. I don't know where you're going at with that. Like when, for what? Yeah, as opposed to what? I don't know. Sorry. Dom with another one. What's going on, Dom? Again, thank you. We probably won't surpass Boston until the core ages out. I mean, until Boston's core ages out. But I'm hopeful that a strong summer can allow New York to catch up back with Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, look, I really don't want to talk about the summer until the summer gets here, because the playoffs are going to be so the summer is going to be so dependent on the playoffs. There are a lot of different ways this playoffs can go in terms of how they play collectively as a team, in terms of how individually guys show up and perform, in terms of how the coach does and the moves he makes or doesn't make. Like, there are so many different variables. And the one thing that, again, I will just offer is that for as much as they gave up for Bridges and for as big as Towns' salary is, I do not think that they are as boxed in as maybe, I won't speak for anybody else, as boxed in as I thought they would be, kind of by choice, before the season started. And I just don't think they will hesitate if they see something that they feel, or a series of moves that they feel makes them a better team than they are right now, irrespective of how that looks in terms of, well, you gave up this for this player, but now you're only getting this for this player. I don't think they're going to care about that. I think they're going to go out there and they're going to be like, are we good enough? Yes or no? If we're not good enough, what do we have to do to get better? Is there an opportunity for us to get better? Can we do the trade? And if they could do, I think they're just going to approach it practically like that. So we'll see. Thanks, Tom. OG team, what's going on, man? Thank you for the very generous super chat on what ended up being not a very fun night. You don't trade for Cat and not mimic how he was used in Minnesota. He was here to replace Julius Randle. Cat is being maximized as a player here, but not the team. I really hope the front office didn't predetermine this idea of Cat being a long-term 5. I've said this before, OG, and I say a lot of shit in a lot of places, so if you missed this one, it's totally fine. My theory, and I have nothing to confirm this theory, but just common sense almost, is they looked at their team. They were like, all right, we got Mitchell Robinson here. We don't know how many games he's going to play. We probably can't rely on him as a major part of our team moving forward. But he'll come back eventually, and we'll see what he can give us, and that's great. And we need a center. And so we're going to kick the tires on different centers, which they did. We know they absolutely looked into Kessler Edwards. And they saw a bunch of half measures where they would have to give up a decent amount, maybe whatever they had left, and maybe they didn't even have enough left for Kessler Edwards. That's entirely possible. And they're like, man, we're going to give up every last thing we have. Oh, did I say Kessler Edwards? I meant Walker Kessler. I've done that so many times. Walker Kessler, not Kessler Edwards. Walker Kessler. If they even had enough to get Walker Kessler, which they maybe didn't. So then you're back to looking at like, all right, so we're going to trade Julius for, because that's what you would have needed to do to get the salary. We're trading Julius for Clint Capella. That's what we're getting for Julius Randle. Or like, because that was the name. I don't know how many times Ian Begley has reported that. Like, many times that they were interested. And we've also seen reports where like they were going to move on from JB. I believe it was James Edwards III who had a report earlier this season that they had conversations with Detroit, I believe, about Julius going there. And like, do the math. It would have probably been for Isaiah Stewart. So now you're like, okay, so now it's Julius for Isaiah Stewart. The point is, I think they looked at that. They got to this point where they were faced with all these unpalatable options. And the reality of like really getting the 45 cents on the dollar for Julius Randle. And they say, yeah, we could do all these things. And they kind of maintain some semblance of the identity of our team with a defense first center and this and that. Or we could go out and trade for and use this package. And yes, it's going to cost us Dante. And yes, we don't like that. But we could use the Julius contract to trade for by far, a more talented player than any other player that we could possibly get. And, oh, by the way, he can play center. Should he play center? Well, you know what? We don't know that. But we have OG Anunoby on our team. We have Mikal Bridges on our team. We have Josh Hart on our team. We have Deuce Pride on our team. So you know what? Fuck it. Let's see, since we have no better option that we could do. Let's go give this a season. And let's see how this works with Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5, surrounded by all these wings. And yes, JB is still at the point of attack, and that's going to be tricky. And we give them a season to see what this is and what they could do. And worst case scenario, if this thing blows up in our face and Karl-Anthony Towns cannot, like we know we cannot survive defensively with Cat at the 5 against the best teams in the league, and we just do not have a championship to climb the mountaintop or a chance to climb the mountaintop with Cat as the 5, okay, great. Guess what? Moving forward, we're going to be in the exact same fucking position as we are right now, except instead of Julius Randle and facing a highly unpleasant contract situation that they wanted no part of facing this upcoming summer, well, at least we're still going to have now we're going to have Karl-Anthony Towns on our team. And yes, Karl-Anthony Towns makes a lot of money, and the money matters, and the whole thing. But like, they made themselves better and they kicked the can down the road. That's always been my theory of what their theory was for this season. And now this summer, they're going to be able to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of aprons. They're going to be able to, they're going to have access to an additional pick, that they could trade down the road or a swap, whatever it is. So, like, if they've decided, they're going to have Mitch's contract that they could use in a trade if they think they need to. If they decide that, like, yeah, we have to go out and get a center, they're actually going to be in a better position now to do so than they were last year, even after having traded what they traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. So that's my theory, OG team. We'll see what they do. If you ask me right now whether or not they are going to obtain a center of some note this summer, I would say yes. And the very simple reason that I would say yes is because Mark Stein reported a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, or maybe it was a month ago, but he reported about prior to the deadline, the Knicks inquired about Walker Kessler again with Utah, and they were apparently rebuffed. But the fact that, like, 50 games into the season, they called up the team that they were trying to get the center from last year and said, yeah, you know what, we'd still like that center, tells me that they have some serious doubts about the long-term viability of Towns at center. So I don't think they predetermined the idea of that Cat as a long-term 5. I think they recognized that this might go badly, and they figured, like, all right, like, yeah, is it ideal? No, maybe it's not ideal, but we'll figure it out later. And I think they still can. Thanks, OG team. Joe Vogel, what's going on? Joe, got to be honest, I think you're too hard on Mikal. Leads the league in miles by a ton. He's spent. When players say it takes a toll, believe them. All right. I mean, second night of a back-to-back. It's fine. It's fair. I guess is that I'll give him more of the pass on the defensive end tonight, at least. My dog apparently doesn't like how rough I am towards Macau. I have a tough time giving him that pass and I'm really specifically keying in on the third quarter tonight, which is where the game turned. I mean, it was they ended the. I mean, what were they outscored by in the third quarter? They were outscored 38-25. You know, like there were possessions, like so many possessions where they just didn't get a good shot, and Macau like either didn't come to the ball or he touched the ball and then immediately passed it off. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like I know you've played a ton and you've run a bunch of miles and the whole thing. This goes back to what I was saying before. You've always done this. And I credit Benji tweeted it or retweeted it. Like Mikal Bridges has been first or second in miles run in the league the last 3 years before this one. This is what he does. He plays every game and he's very active. That's that's why he's here. And again, I'm sorry to bring the picks into this, but if you're going to trade this many picks for a guy who is not an elite shot creator in any way, shape, or form, you have to get what he's been giving you for years, which is like always going to bring the energy. I'm always going to fill in the gaps that you need, because I don't have to do that heavy lifting. You didn't trade for him to do the heavy lifting, but you need to get what you like. They didn't like he needed to give more. He needs to give more. I'm sorry. He does. I'm just not going to give him the pass here. I'm not. If you think I'm being too harsh, I apologize. I think he could give a little. I think he could be better. I just think he could be better. That's it. That's it. Thanks, Joe. Manny Campos, I haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're okay. With JB out, we've seen OG and MB step up tonight, notwithstanding. Should Mitchell's approach this season be a blueprint for JB when he's back? Will Tibbs encourage it rather than leaning into ISO ball? I hope he encourages it. I hope so. I think, again, though, I push back against part of what Simmons said about Bridges, which is he's not a passenger in all this. He has agency, and he needs to use it, and he hasn't used it enough. I agree with that. I also agree with Simmons' sentiment that the offense is it's not as, I just don't think it's as creative as it could be. Now, Lowe pushed back and said like all the cutting stuff that they do, using Towns as a passing hub from the top of the key, like all that stuff wasn't in the offense, and now it is. And that's a great job by Tom Thibodeau to instill all of that. That's the easiest way to get buckets is, is have Towns be up there and have teams be paying attention to him and be cutting left and right. And like all the ways that they've figured out a way to, get Josh Hart and have him be a positive part of the offense despite his struggles. I think like that shows offensive creativity. Are we asking a lot? Absolutely, we're asking a lot. But is there another layer to uncover here? And does it involve JB changing to some extent how he goes about his business in this offense? Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I don't, he's not going to turn into Chris Paul overnight, nor should he. But is there more meat on that bone? And if there is this the coach to get them there? I think those are both valid questions. I'll say that. Very valid questions. Thanks, Manny. Kevin Danishevsky, are people really freaking out about this one? Jesus. I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I hope I didn't freak out. If I freaked out or it seemed like I freaked out, I apologize. And since you're the last super chat, I'll just end kind of where I started, which is that I just, I would have liked a little bit more. That's all. I would have liked a little bit more. Not a lot more, just a little bit more. And if I had gotten that little bit more, I would have come on here and I would have been like, hey, you know what? Tip the cap. You did what you had to do. Even though you lost by, 12 or whatever. It's that little bit that just, and if you want to push back and say, It's unfair of me to want that little bit. That's fine. I'm not going to argue with you. But if I don't, I have no idea if people are freaking out about this one. If they are, it is what it is. Man, the Mavs are going to blow this freaking game. Unbelievable. Anyway, okay, I think that's it. Yeah, thanks for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Postgame Show. I actually will be on the postgame on Saturday. So even though I am going to the event at T Squared, I will be on the postgame. That postgame will be at some point after the game ends. My guess is that it will be sometime between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, starting the postgame. So first of all, come on down to T Squared Social. Check out us at the watch party. If you missed the game or you watched the game and you want to hear me on post game, come back to the Knicks Film School YouTube channel that night. Who knows? Maybe we'll be talking about Jalen Brunson making his return. We'll see. I imagine it's going to be Sunday, but you never know. Okay, that's it. Thanks everybody for checking out another one, and we will talk to you soon. Peace out.